Hi, and welcome to this video on the What You See is What You Get editor in AL. Hey, I'm Eric, and I just finished adding a small new update to my WYSIWYG, or What You See is What You Get control for AL code. And I thought, why not do a video on how to use it? So that's what we're doing now. Let's actually start by visiting GitHub. This is my little corner of GitHub, and this is the WYSIWYG-AL project. And what it basically is a way to edit text with bold and create tables and italic and fonts and all that good stuff, which is great if you have data that it needs to be formatted some way. And I have here my good old Visual Studio Code, and I copied the user control from GitHub into this one, and let's add a field to the item table. Let's add a more complex item description. So we'll start by creating a item description. That's probably a table extension, and you know when you press Control space in places where you need to add an ID, the next available ID from whatever type you're in will actually be in the IntelliSense, so you can just get the next numbers. Don't have to worry about numbers. Item description, and we're gonna extend the item table. We're gonna add a field, and I do the control space again to get the next available field number. Item description, and we could of course go with a blob, but then we'll have to do a lot of stream work, and I think that deserves a video by itself. So let me know in the comments below if you want a video on streams, and be sure to subscribe, by the way, because there will probably be a video on streams. But right now we'll just do this the easiest way and do it. Now that we can do quite big text fields, we will let's actually SURIP description to be classified. So now we have a field on the item table, and let's add a new file to our project, item card extension, and this time it's a page extension. I do the control space again, and I get the same number because this is a page extension. If I were to do another table extension and do control space, I'll get 101 because that's the next number that's available in table extension. So that's a pretty cool little feature. Page extension, we'll just call it YouTube item card extends item card. And we want to do something layout, and we want to add something after something else. Let's add it after, you know, the different fast tab, the different sections, the different groups. The problem is that which group is the first one? Is the one called group control 61 or control 64? So you can. A trick for this is to go to the name up here, the item card, and just press F12. We get the code, and we can see that, hey, the first group is actually called item. So let's say add after item. And now what we want to add is a user control, and we'll call it edit CTL. Just needs a name. I control space again to get my options, and because I copied the GitHub stuff into the project, I have the WYSIWYG, so we are off to the races here. Application area, all, of course. Then let's run it. Let's see what happens right now. I just want to show you guys something. So I publish. I'm running a Docker-based container here. And I set my launch thing to the item card. And as you can see, the only thing that really happened was kind of an empty space added. So we can see that we're in the right spot because it was after the item section, but nothing there. Okay, so we probably need to do something more for this to work. The first thing we can do is start by looking at triggers. So we can see that this control creates 4 events. Content changed. That's probably a good one when we need to handle what has been typed. Control ready. That's most user or add-in controls do. On after init and save requested. And you can see these 4 are actually, if we go and take a look at the control add-in, we can see that these are indeed the events that has been defined. And the way this control works is, of course, that on control ready is get fired from the startup script. So right here, that means that we're ready to do stuff. So let's actually start by looking at control ready. What do we need to do on control ready? Well, if we go back and look here for a second, we can see that there is a procedure on the user control called init. And we need to init. So you cannot say, so this is kind of strange with user control. You cannot say edit control.init. That will not work. You have to do current page.edit control.init to access the procedures on the control. So now we have init. Then we know that there's also a trigger called on after init. So when the initialization is finished, we can actually try. Let's run it again. Just keep track of what goes on here. We'll run it again. See if this changes. I can close the old one while the new one is loading. And hey, look at this. We have an editor. So that's pretty cool. So right now it's a totally detached editor, and we can already see some issues. First issue is that right now the page is in not edit mode, but we can edit the editor. So we need to look into that, and we know right now it's hard to. So let's say I go to the next card. It has the same value here. So there's something about the data. So we need to look at the state editable state of the control, and we need to handle the data. So let's get back to Visual Studio Code and say, so what do we want to do after init? I think what we need to, because think about this for a second. When we hit this one, what happens? Well, we actually go to the next record. So clearly we need to do something on after get record. But now we end up in a you could call it a race condition. We end up in a situation where on after get record might get called before control ready is done. and potentially also before on after init is triggered. So what I like to do in this case, because it can get complicated, is that we add a global variable, and you always say, I'm always saying, Eric. I'm not saying Eric. You guys are saying, Eric, you're always telling us not to use global variables. But this is one of the cases where it makes sense. I'll create a Boolean called editor ready. So at this point, when we're on after init, we know that this control is good. So we set it to true. Then we know that down here, we can say if editor ready, then do some stuff. So now that condition can never arise. But when we open the first time, we don't really get the on after record the way we think we were. So we need to handle the fact of the very first record. So we need to do something about cur page dot edit control, and then there were a method called load. Takes a string of HTML code, so the actual formatting of the data inside the editor is HTML. And we could start by, you know what? Let's just add the description of the item. And we can run this again. Just let's keep track of what's happening. Let's scroll down, and Athens desk. So now we got the description from the item loaded inside the control. So that's pretty good. But we actually had created a new field. So let's say that if item description, our new field, is not empty, then we will load with that. Otherwise, let's keep the other one. So otherwise we'll load with the just the description field, so it kind of initialize the field. So that's pretty good. So what will happen after we click next? So we need to do something almost similar down here. So what we could do, I think, so we could actually just reuse what we have up here. So what I would do is actually say we'll turn this off again to avoid confusion, and then we'll simply call the edit control and init. So if we re-init, meaning that will also empty the control. So we reset the control when we get a new record, that will call on after init, that will load a new value. So let's stop the debugger and run this again. See if this makes sense. Now we should get the item, still get the item description in the field. Let's see. So we have Athens desk, and I click next. Bam. We get the Paris guest chair, black. So this is pretty good. And Athens mobile pedestal. If I write hello YouTube here, that's pretty good. I go back, we have the guest chair, I go forward, and we do not have the YouTube text because we have not handled how to save the value. So if you remember one of the other triggers, that was the save. No, that was like the content changed. Okay, so let's. So content changed is a trigger that will tell us that something has changed. So we need to save that value. But what we need to do now is actually trigger something else. So we go back and say edit control, and then save request. No, not save, sorry. request save. And then from the last trigger, the save, because now we requested the save, so we can now go and get the data we have and put that into item description equal data. So let's try that for a second. We still have not solved the read-only thing, whether the page is in edit mode or not. So I think we need to tackle that. But Athens desk from Greece. We go next. We get a Paris guest chair. We go back from Greece. So that's saving. Pretty easy. So the only thing we need to really do to make this complete is that we need to control whether the we need to control the control for it if you can edit or not. So the information about the so there's one, so curpage dot editable is a very strange function or property or whatever you call it. It's everything basically. So if you can set that new editable. You can set that to true or false, but it doesn't really work. It works very precisely on the trigger on open page. From that one you can set it, and it works differently whether it's a list or page, and it's sometimes confusing. But if you ask the value, that's the actual value of the page's current status. So what we can, because we do have curpage, edit control, set read only. So we have a new function. This is actually what I updated the control with. So set read only, but this is opposite, because if this one returns true when the page is editable, but we want to say true when it's read only. So we have to reverse the logic by saying not here in front of this. So let's try that. F5, compile again, deploy again. Let's see what happens. I got my hopes up. So now this is grayed out. If you can see that, this is grayed out. It still have the right value. If I go next, this is perfect. So I click the pencil, and now it's not grayed out. But hang on, Eric, hang on. You did not add any code in a trigger saying switch from editable to non-editable or versa. So what's the trigger here? What and that's the funky thing, so to speak, is that when you hit the pencil, it will get the record again. So it will actually trigger on after get record. And we had the code ready to go, so we would init it again. So we'll actually reload the control and set the read-only status correctly. So we could say a black on black from YouTube. There we go. We go back. We still have from Greece, and we have black on black. So that's how you can use the what you see is what you get of WYSIWYG control in Business Central. You can grab it off the web. This one is actually based on, I may actually just give you that bit of a piece of advice. This thing is the CK Editor 5, and we don't ask root. So this is the editor. And I have just, supported a few things, because right now the control is just doing what I need it to do. But you can go in and check all the documentation, which is really, really comprehensive, and go in and if you need to do something like I did with I added the set read only, and what I actually did was I found that, hey, there's a property on the editor controller is read only. So that's what I said. So my contribution to add the read only function was these 4 lines of JavaScript and 1 line in the control add-in file. That's it. So you can go and add stuff, make this control work the way you like it. And if you're really awesome, you send me a pull request, or just send me an email or tweet or anything, or subscribe to the channel and put it in the comments below. And if you have a good idea or a feature that you created, I'll add it to the control so everybody else can have fun with it. Well, that's the what you see is what you get editor and AL. So until next time, have a wonderful day.